StrayAllDay.com.
Tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, go-getter energy. It moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is preparation, the hallmark of the professional. Before we get into it, let me remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation message guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. And my Monday motivation does the same thing for your week. When we start sending those messages out again, you want to be in my text community, so you are getting them. It is free to join the community, so just text me at this number, 305-384-6894. And once we start sending those messages again, you'll have an option to choose how often you want to receive them. And our bot will let you know they are on the way. So all you got to do is just send us a text right now. So when we start sending those messages out again, you already have that part taken care of. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to work with us directly, have me as your direct coach when it comes to your mindset, your strategy, your systems, your accountability for your forward movement, because you are serious about getting to your highest possible level and maximizing out on your potential right now, not later, but now. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is down below in the description to this episode. Let's get into this episode here, which is preparation, the hallmark of the professional. Now, just yesterday, we were talking about transitioning from the sports world to the business world and how both of them can be the professional level, depending on where you were playing in sports. But I was thinking about this when I was considering how performers and experts in their fields are always ahead of time for a situation. They're always prepared ahead of time for a situation before it happens, and because they are high level professionals. So today we're going to talk about how preparation is one of the most important things that you can partake in as a pro at what you do. It doesn't matter what it is you're doing, as long as you're doing it professionally, which means you're doing it as your main paid occupation. That is the definition of being a professional. And we extend that definition over here at Work on Your Game by saying a professional is a person who is always prepared to go out and perform every single time, regardless of how they feel. If that's you, if I just described who you are and or who you want to be, and those of you who plan on being higher level professionals, I'm talking about you're not just getting by as a professional, but you're one of the best out there at what you do, then this preparation piece is a huge piece of this. And this is not optional. This is not something that's nice to have. This is something that is a mandate. This is something that is required if you're going to be a high level professional. If you think about any professional that you know in any aspect of life, whether it's someone you watch on TV, you follow on the internet, or you know them personally, notice that they are always prepared to do their job, whether you have seen them do the prep work or you can just tell that they were prepped because of the way that they perform. This is a mandate. Again, not an option. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is preparation is the hallmark of the professional. Number one, the bar is very low to beat everyone else. When I say everyone else, I'm talking about the pros. I'm not just talking about the everyday person, the amateurs. I'm talking about the everyday person. When it comes to, when it comes to the pros, the other people who are professional at the same thing at which you are a professional, the bar to be better than them is extremely low. Now, I work with a lot of professionals. I remember I was talking to a guy who works in the financial space, and he was telling me that one of the things that he was sharing with me that we were actually working on was like he was like, Dre, I spend a lot of time in the office, doing a lot of work because I like to service my clients at a high level. And he was explaining to me, because I don't come from the financial world, so he was just giving me a little bit of background on that space. He said, in the financial space, if you are just average at your job, you're just okay at your job, you can make pretty good money, which is, and type of numbers he was throwing out there, you can make enough money, you can be in the top 10% of income earners in America. You can make a steady, healthy, safe 6 figures every single year, and you don't have to be good at all. You can just be average in that industry. At least that's how it was when he said that to me. And he was explaining to me that he likes to go above and beyond and do a lot more than what most people in his industry do. And he would allude to some of his colleagues, some of his peers in the space, who didn't do nearly the kind of work that he did. They didn't put in nearly the amount of effort. They didn't do the amount of prep work that he did. And that's the reason why he was able to excel and perform at the level that he was performing. And by the way, everything I'm telling you here, if what I just described sounds like the type of person that you are, you're the type of person who I want to work with and Work on Your Game University. Type people who think like this and they do these kind of things on their own volition, and they would love to have someone like me to help facilitate them performing at an even higher level and going even further at what they're doing. So this guy, perfect mindset for what I'm describing here. Again, even if you're not in the financial space, which most of the people we work with are not, but a few of them are. But anyway, the point being, the bar is very low to beat everyone else. Most people, when they get to the professional level of what they do, and this is even the professionals, the people who are getting paid to do the thing. Once they get to the professional level, most people are generally pretty lazy. I did an episode on this concept already. I brought this up many times here. Episode number 2568. Problem. You are lazy as fuck. That's the title of the episode. And that's not just referring to the amateurs. That's just not referring to the people who have nothing going on. Those people are lazy as fuck too. But the professionals, all right, many professionals out there are fucking lazy. They do just enough. Most people do just enough to get by. Most people at every level of everything do just enough to get by. They do just enough so that they are above the floor level, whatever the minimum requirement is to be there. They do just enough to be above that minimum requirement, and they don't do anything other than that. As the saying goes, it is never crowded on the extra mile. All right, the bar is very low. I can confidently state this because most people are too lazy to prepare ahead of time for pretty much anything that they do. Most people just show up when it's time to do the thing, and that's when they start getting ready. And again, a lot of people are able to get away with this because there are so many average people out there. If you're running an organization and you would just fire anyone who has this type of mindset, you only want the higher level people. Well, first of all, the type of people you're looking for are few and far between. It would take a lot of effort to sift through all the averageness in order to get to those higher level people. It's not that they don't exist. It takes a lot of effort to find them and go through everybody else. Most organizations become so lazy. Even organizations are so lazy that they won't do the work to sift through all the people to only get the high level individuals. So there are organizations that are like this, that they only look for the high level people and they sift out everybody else. But the organizations that are willing to do the work to get to those people, they are few and far between. So you see how this is kind of like a waterfall. It's like a cascading situation, which means if you are just an average person who's pretty lazy, you can become a professional or something and make your living doing that thing professionally, and you'll be all right. You can live the rest of your career doing that and live happily ever after if you want to. If you want to be a high level performer, you can, but understand in order for you to get around other people who are like you got to look around. You got to look hard to find a place that will welcome somebody like you. Most places will not. You'll be above damn near everybody. Maybe that's what you want. And you can pretty much join any organization. And if you just put in more prep work than everybody else, even if you have no natural abilities, you're pretty much better than everybody within a year or so. Might not even take that long. All right. That's, again, I'm just saying that as a general rule, no matter what it is that you're doing for a living. Why? Because most people are fucking lazy. I already told you this. Okay. Most people do not prepare ahead of time for anything unless they are instructed to do so, or they are forced to do so, or they are paid extra to do so. Let me say that sentence again. And any of you who's a professional at anything, please take heed to what I'm about to say to you again. Most people do not prepare ahead of time unless they are told to do so, if they are forced to do so, or if they are paid to do so. Meaning, flip it around. If you don't tell someone to prepare, if you don't force them to prepare, and you don't pay them to prepare, they won't prepare. They'll just show up at the time of the thing and expect to be able to figure it out or to be told what to do then at that time. So if you want to be ahead of most people, all you have to do is, what do we know, folks? The opportunities and the opposites. Do the opposite of what most people do. All right, so what I'm telling you here in this first point is what most people do. All you got to do is don't be like this. Okay, don't fit the description I'm giving you here in point number one. The problem with this line of thinking of waiting until the moment in order to get ready is that you will never get paid extra money if you're not going the extra mile. All right, we all understand the law of the universe that you got to give to receive, right? If you don't put anything in, you can't get anything out, right? You get out of things what you put into it. Everybody understands, generally agrees with that concept, right? So if you don't put any extra work, how are you going to get extra returns? Well, you won't, because you can't. You didn't put anything extra. How are you going to get an extra return of something that you never sent out? Everybody understand where I'm going here? It's never crowded on the extra mile, as I told you, because very few people even think about taking the extra mile, let alone do they actually do it. How often? Think about this. I'm going to put you on the spot now, listener. How often do you think about doing something that would be extra work? It would be extra preparation. It would be a step further than most of your colleagues and peers would do. How often do you think about doing something like that, but then you don't actually do it? All right, see what I mean? All right, see how you're laughing in spite of yourself right now? This is my point. Most people are lazy as fuck, and you sometimes are guilty of being lazy as fuck. Now, the good news about this is that now that I just brought it to your consciousness, you can do something about it and stop doing that. Stop making that mistake. Preparing is doing the work before the work. That is a form of the extra mile. Does everybody get it? Doing the work before the work is a form of going the extra mile because most people don't do it. So let me be clear what I mean when I say the extra mile. The extra mile is relative to what most people in your space are doing. And again, look around, those of you who are professionals, look around at your coworkers, look at the people you work with, look at your peers, look at your colleagues. Can you do a little bit more preparatory work than they do? You should be laughing at this question because it's laughably easy to do, right? If you look around at most of them, you ain't damn near ain't got to do much to be doing more prep work than them. Most people are lazy. Again, even professionals. I'm talking people who get paid to do something as a full-time job. For you to do a little bit more prep work than them is not that hard. All right, some of you are already doing it. Keep it up if you are, and if you're not doing it, start doing it so you can stop being average. When you're prepared ahead of time for any situation that you will face, the people who you are working with, again, especially if they're high level performers themselves, they will notice that you're prepared ahead of time. So your bosses, your superiors, if you have any, they will notice that you're prepared ahead of time. Or the people who are further ahead than you and you're trying to catch up to their level, they will notice that you're doing things that everybody else at your level is not doing. They are noticing this. Even if they're not saying anything, they're noticing it. Okay, they will notice that you're prepared ahead of time. And what happens is it earns their respect, their admiration, and you just plant a little seed in their mind that they remember you because they saw that you did the extra work. Even if they don't acknowledge you for it, they are noticing that you did the extra work. Here's the thing. You have to continually keep putting in that extra work. In my book, The Third Day, we call this the separation day. As you continue putting in that extra work, it starts to build upon itself. It starts to compound upon itself to the point that it overflows. The levees break, and that's when you start to get the returns from doing this. So understand, doing this one time or 10 times may not necessarily result in any tangible difference. But if you keep doing it, you make it a normal habit, eventually you're going to get so many returns from doing this that you won't want to stop. That's the point. So few other people do this that this is a competitive advantage in and of itself. And the bar for standing out is relatively low. And as a general rule in all of life, any industry. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is preparation, the hallmark of the professional. Number 2, do more work on one target instead of less work on several targets. What do I mean by this? Do more work on one specific target instead of dissipating your efforts among several different things. In other words, what I'm talking about here is going an inch wide and a mile deep. I talked about this in episode number 1254, inches and miles. There's a guy on YouTube named MrBeast. You're familiar with this guy, MrBeast? He is, I believe, last I heard, is the most subscribed to or the most viewed, maybe he's both, person in the history of YouTube. This guy, MrBeast. This is a white guy from North Carolina. And what MrBeast says, and I believe he was on the Joe Rogan podcast when he said this. He said that, and I'm paraphrasing, he spends, because Joe Rogan was asking him, well, how is it that you get your videos to just be so amazing and get so many views and do so well? And MrBeast explained that instead of putting out a whole bunch of videos and getting the volume effect of putting out so many, he instead focuses on one video at a time and making that one video as amazing as he can make that one video. And you get way times the ROI from having one amazing thing than having a whole bunch of average things put together. That's how he got to the top, at least according to his MrBeast's own theory of his own success. This can also mean, doesn't necessarily mean you only make one video and just all of a sudden your life changes. It can mean several iterations of the same thing that you're doing. In other words, focus on this one thing. And I'm just going to focus on getting as good as I can at doing this one thing. It doesn't have to be one video. It could be doing this one thing so I can master it. So let's say if your focus is you want to be a basket weaver. Let me just focus on being the best basket weaver I can be instead of being a basket weaver and an auto mechanic and a dog watcher and a babysitter and a internet coder all at the same time. Focus on one thing so you can maximize your results in that one particular area. Okay, that's what I mean. So it can mean several iterations, but working on one specific area, one focus. For example, another example, there are marketers out there who, instead of making 5 advertisements per week, they make 100 advertisements per week, 100 written ads or 100 image ads or 100 video ads. Every single week, they're making 100 different advertisement pieces. And this is a real thing. And they understand that maybe only 2 or 3 of those 100 ads will actually take off and really make them money. But what they do is they have a process, a system for how they can test all the ads for a small amount of money. And then when they find the ones that work, they put all their money into those, and that's how they end up making their money. And in the big picture, even though they spent some money on the ones that didn't work, the money that they make on the ones that do work more than make up for the cost of the ones that did not. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? So you end up getting a positive ROI, but you just have to put in more of the things that you're doing. Now, this very concept that I just explained, this is something that I touched on when I gave you the episode on the phenomenon in episode number 2874, triggering the phenomenon, putting more inputs in so that you can get to that ideal output quicker. All right, the more inputs you put in, the faster you can go through iterations to finally get to the thing that does actually work. So what I mean here in this example is the 100 advertisements that you make. Let's say I made 100 ad videos and put them all out this week. Doing 100 ad videos is the preparation that I'm doing to find the 2 or 3 ad videos that are going to make me the money. And then the 2 or 3 ad videos that make me the money, I make 100 times return on investment from all my advertising put together from those 2 or 3 that work. But I got to go through 100 to get to the 2 or 3. Right? Because if I knew what the 2 or 3 was without having to do all that extra work, then I would just go straight to the 2 or 3. But I don't know. That's the point. That's the prep work. All right. That's the discipline. And that's the effort that most people are not willing to put in. So are you willing to do it? That's an open question I'm going to leave for you to sit with. This is the work, folks. This is the work. And in this sense, preparation is not just about doing the work before a task. It's also about having insights into which work you should be doing with respect to the goal. See, in this sense, getting that insight from a resource outside of yourself can be extremely valuable to your professional performance. This is the reason why you have to learn to leverage people outside of yourself, because you may not have ever even thought along the lines of what I'm giving you examples of here. And there are parallel examples in what you're doing, but you would never consider them because you just don't know what you don't know. All right. Your line of thinking is your line of thinking. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that other people know stuff you don't know. All right. This is the reason why you leverage relationships. As I talked about this in yesterday's episode. So other people have knowledge that you don't have. And there is no need for you to try to match other people in knowledge. All you got to do is plug into their knowledge and just use it. Right? You don't have to try to learn everything that they know. All you got to do is plug into what they know and use it as necessary, and then let them use you too. So you got to be useful to other people in order for them to be useful to you. This is how some people seem to achieve a lot of success very rapidly. It is not because they're outworking everybody. They're just asking different questions. And as a result of those different questions, they're taking different actions. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is preparation, which is the hallmark of the professional. Number 3, all of this is connected to the phenomenon, as I just referenced. That's a concept that I shared that I got from this guy named Dan Kennedy. And he talks about how putting more ammunition into things positions you to create an outsized amount of return that breaks the linkage between effort and output. Putting more in, more prep work, more iterations, puts you in a position to create the ROI that, again, breaks the link. Key phrase here, listen to what I'm saying. Breaks the link between effort and output. That's what we all want to do that. We all want to break the link between effort and output. In other words, you want your returns to not be connected to how much or how hard you work, because then there's a limit. Because there's a limit to how much you can work and there's a limit to how hard you can work. But what if your returns had nothing to do with how much effort you put in or how long you work, and you were getting multiplications of returns regardless of your effort or your output? Well, you got to create the phenomenon to do that. And I talked about that. Again, I gave you the episode where I talked about that. It was episode number 2874. And I'm touching on some of those concepts here in this episode. So make sure you go listen to 2874 if you have not already. And we all want this. We all want to break that connection. This is all part of the preparation. Understand, this is part of the preparation. All right, that's not even the full work. That's the prep. Because it refers to asking yourself different and higher quality questions that lead to different and higher quality activities, which lead to better and more outputs. Everybody understanding these equations that I'm giving you here? And these are outputs that you actually want. So you have to be careful with continually putting in more and more effort at a thing, which is a quantitative change, when what you really want is more insight, which leads to qualitative change. And there's a big difference between the two. The right qualitative approach used in volume is what gets you to the winning formula. But it has to be the right qualitative approach, not quantitative. Quantitative is how much. Qualitative is what type. The challenge for many people is that they do things in volume without questioning the quality of their activities. Again, go back to what I told you MrBeast said about his own material. And there's a lot of time and energy ends up being used by somebody in doing a big quantity of things, but since they never adjust or consider or edit the quality of what they're doing, you can do a whole lot of it. And if you have some level of skill, hey, maybe you can make marginal progress, but it doesn't create the type of progress that you really want, simply because you're operating by an inaccurate formula that simply is never going to get you to the outcomes that you want. But if you ask yourself some better quality questions, which may need to be sourced from someone outside of yourself, they usually do, then you put yourself in position to get better outcomes without a change in skill. It's just a change in approach. That's really what we need. And the challenge for a lot of people is that they tend to think, well, let me just put in more effort and let me put in more time. Those are usually the two things: more effort, more time, or let me get more information. None of those is actually the thing that you need. That's the thing that I've been emphasizing here over years on the show, and will continue to emphasize moving forward, because I got to get everybody in the world to hear it. And unfortunately, human beings are hard-headed. We got to be told things more than once. Let's recap today's class, which is preparation, the hallmark of the professional. Point number one: the bar is very low to beat everyone else. In your particular space, the bar is very low to beat other people, even professionals. Most professionals get to a certain level. Most humans get to a certain level in anything they do in life, and then they just put the car in park and they take a nap and relax. They just pretty much stay at that spot and want to maintain the status quo. The problem is it's impossible to maintain the status quo, because every day you're getting older and closer to death. So if you are the same, quote unquote, today as you were yesterday, you're not the same. You're actually worse, because you are one day older. Point number two: more work on one target instead of less work on several targets. Again, as MrBeast said about his content, he focuses so much on maximizing the performance of one piece of content rather than making a whole bunch of pieces of content. Now, again, that can also mean focusing on making so many iterations of a thing until you find what works, and then doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on that one thing. Doesn't mean you have to do it exactly as I'm giving you the example from him. I'm giving you what MrBeast said about himself as an example. There are marketers out there who, instead of making 5 ad videos, they'll make 100 ad videos, find the 2 or 3 that work, cut off the 98 that aren't, and put all their money into the 2 that are working. That's part of the work. This is all part of the prep work. So you just have to know your formula. That's the point. You got to know your formula. There's a certain type of formula that works for some people in some spaces, a different formula that works for others. Point is, you got to have a formula. Problem many people have is that they have no formula. So they're just doing stuff randomly, and then they have no idea why they're getting the results that they're getting. Point number 3: all of this is connected to the phenomenon. This is a concept that I shared from Dan Kennedy in my episode where I talked about the phenomenon. He talks about putting in more ammunition positions you to create an outsized return that breaks the linkage between effort and output, which is exactly what we all want. You want to be making qualitative changes instead of quantitative changes. In order to change the quality of what you're doing, you need to ask yourself better quality questions. And again, that's usually not going to come from the same brain that positions you to where you are right now. That's why you have to use relationships, leverage the knowledge and insights and skills of people outside of yourself, so you are not stuck with your own level of thinking. With all that said, text me, see you in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly? We focus on mindset, strategy, systems, accountability, implementation, everything you've been hearing me talk about on all the episodes of this show. If you want to have me as your direct coach, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Links down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre all